Hi, hello, and welcome to Political Aficionado. I'm your host, San Safarnajad, and today I have a special episode prepared for you guys. Considering the amount of fake news slash rumors that are disseminated on social media, I thought that maybe it's a good idea to take a look at a few of these rumors that are circulating and uh, basically fact check them, see how credible they are, and how much truth is behind these rumors slash you know these are fake news, yeah, rumors slash fake news. So let's go on, and we start the show with the interview that actually happened quite a while ago, but I didn't really uh, get the chance to actually react to it. So uh, you know, I guess better late than never. So let's go and watch the interview on Mr. Glenn Diesen's show. A quick disclaimer here before we, go on with the show. I think that it's very important to understand that this video is not an attack on any of the individuals who have posted about different things, and they try to inform people. Obviously, we all try our best in order to be accurate, uh, but sometimes we make mistakes, and sometimes it's just maybe our intentions are pure and we want to see the country succeed, so we might be over enthusiastic when it comes to publishing certain pieces of news, and that actually gets the best of us. It sort of uh, makes us make errors, force us to make errors. So uh, while we are trying to address these rumors, I want you guys to understand that this is not a personal attack on any of the individuals whose posts I'm going to show, whose videos I'm going to show. It's merely for the sake of documenting and understanding what's a credible rumor, what's actually true, and what's unequivocally false, and give people a sense of what's going on, considering how important the upcoming war between Iran and United States is for the future of surely Middle East, but even to some extent for the future of the world. So let's go and let's look at the first video that I've prepared for you guys. It's a video on Mr. Glenn Diesen's show. Uh, this gentleman made quite a few comments about the help that Russia has provided Iran with. So I thought that maybe it's good for us to watch that and uh, basically see how much truth to those claims are. So let's go. Let's watch the video.
Welcome back. We are joined again by Stanislav Krapivnik, a former U.S. Army officer and military analyst, originally from Donbass, who has now returned to Russia. So thank you for coming back on. I have a lot of questions I've been looking forward to ask you.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Well, I thought perhaps we can look toward the Middle East first, because, well, as the United States continues to build up all these military capabilities in the preparation of a possible attack on Iran, the big question everyone asks are, what will countries like Russia and China do, as they can't afford to see Iran being defeated and possibly balkanized. However, neither Russia nor China wants a direct shooting war with the United States. But how does Russia assist Iran in terms of defending itself?
Well, this is an interesting topic because Iran is presenting for both Russia and China a platform of integration where they may be getting battle tested. Russia has developed for Iran in a very quick order an integrated air defense shield, something Iran didn't have. At first, Iran had S-300s, they had S-200s, the older systems, the 60 systems, which, by the way, still work against quite well against tomahawks. When the tomahawks are going to actually explode. The system, an integrated air umbrella, is a system. If it's fully integrated, you have on the strategic level where you can start picking up and possibly intercepting enemy targets outside of the country you're defending, the territory you're defending. Then you have an inner layer where you're starting to defend on a strategic level inside that country. Then you have on a battle theater level. Then you have on a localized level, and then you have pinpoint defense. The Panther is on a localized level. The Igla or the
Okay, so I think that's enough for the first part. Um, Look, he talks about Russia uh, making this integrated air umbrella for Iran, but that's actually not correct. Uh, in Persian, the integrated air defense systems, uh, it it means if you translate it to Persian, it's sistem padafand yekparche, right? And that's something that Iran actually unveiled roughly around 5 years ago. So that the first part, when he's talking about, um, Russia making this building, actually, this integrated air defense systems for Iran, uh, that's actually contrary to the information that we have inside Iran. I don't know what his sources are. I would be really interested to talk to him and understand where he comes from and who has given him this kind of information. But yeah, let's go and watch some more. Just I want you to pay attention to something. He mentioned Igla, which is this man pad, similar to Stinger. You might have heard of it. Misaq 3 missile that Iran has, and China has its own version. I think it's OW2, if I'm not mistaken. But it was very interesting that he mentioned the name of this manpad, because actually a few days after that, Financial Times, I think it was Financial Times, that broke the story about how Iran has purchased Igla and Verba. These are two manpads produced by Russia. Uh, and it was really interesting to me that he mentioned Igla, because that's not something that you would mention. Uh, with regards to the help that a big superpower like Russia has provided Iran with. So let's go and watch the rest of the video.
What's the American system working? I remember it. Well, the defense. That's the last line of defense. If it's say drone system, integrated system. Obviously, you're not going to be taking out ballistic missiles or cruise missiles with a shoulder-fired missile, supposedly. But you never know. Well, supposedly, yes, you can't do that.
Okay, I'm sorry, I have to address this. It's not supposedly that you can't do it. You can't do it. You can't shoot a ballistic missile with a manpad. A ballistic missile, for example, let's talk about a relatively slow ballistic missile traveling at Mach 4, right? Uh, a ballistic missile traveling at Mach 4 travels 1.3 kilometer in 1 second. If you blink, you're gonna miss it, right? So you can't actually intercept a ballistic missile. And the reason that this comment really infuriates me is due to the fact that he says supposedly you can't, but you never know, sort of insinuating that there is a possibility. No, there is no possibility of doing that. If the Iranian ballistic missiles penetrated 7 line of defense in Israel and they hit their target despite Israel using Arrow 2, Arrow 3, THAAD, David Sling, all these different weapon systems, air defense systems, you can't shoot down a ballistic missile with a manpad. You simply can't do it. And it's not a matter of you supposedly won't be able to do it. It's a matter of fact. No human has that kind of reflex to predict where a ballistic missile is, in 1 second, and predict where it's going to be, launch a manpad missile at that direction. No human being can do that. Even the not fully automated system, semi-automated systems, dedicated ABM systems can't do it. They don't have like 100% interception rate, and we saw that in Israel when, again, the Iranian ballistic missiles penetrated 7 lines of air defense systems. It's not supposedly you cannot under any circumstance shoot down a ballistic missile with Igla. You can't do it. Let's watch a little bit of more of this video and see what he says next.
But you could take out a jet, for example, or a helicopter, or
I didn't think that I'm going to pause this soon. Sorry, I should have maybe prepared the timestamps of the different points in the video that I want to make my commentary on. He said that you can shoot a fighter jet. That's debatable. Look, the highest altitude that a manpad can reach is 4.5 kilometer, 5.1 kilometers, somewhere along that line, right? A fighter jet travels, in a standard mission, basically flies between 10 kilometer to 15 kilometer altitude. That's 30,000 feet to 50,000 feet, right? And just quick note here, I was recently on Iran talks. Before anyone tries to make this issue something that it is not, as me being completely clueless, on that show I said, I went on and rewatched my commentary on that video. On that show I said 10 kilometer to 30 kilometer. That's insane. Like, any fighter jets don't travel 30 kilometers away from the ground. So that was a mistake. That was probably because I tried to memorize both the metric system measurements and the imperial system measurements, so that 30,000 number sort of slipped out. But 30,000 feet to 50,000 feet, which is the altitude of the standard mission, basically maps to 10 kilometer to 15 kilometer, and I want to make that correction before anyone else tries to use it as a gotcha moment. But yeah, they're traveling on that altitude. Again, as I mentioned, a manpad only reaches to 5.1 kilometer altitude. So 5.1, 10 kilometer, which is basically the lowest altitude that a fighter jet travels during a standard mission. If you pay attention, I keep saying standard mission. There is a reason for that. Actually, there are these missions that fighter jets carry out called dedicated ground attacks. And they usually basically carry out those type of missions when they want to provide air cover for infantry, for the soldiers on the ground who are physically having their boots on the ground, right? So in those type of missions, dedicated ground missions, they actually fly lower. But considering the fact that the upcoming war with Iran isn't, in such way that we actually see ground forces being deployed to the Iranian border, no, you can't actually shoot down a fighter jet with these kind of portable air defense systems, these manpads. So I just thought that that's something that I should mention, that no, manpad is not good enough in order to shoot down a fighter jet. By the way, now that we are discussing this, I feel that it's appropriate to mention something else. You can't even shoot down a hail drone. A hail drone is as the name suggests, that hail stands for high altitude, right? So you can't even shoot down a high altitude drone with these, manpad system with igla, which is very important. So you can only shoot down helicopters. um, if you get lucky and if there is a ground invasion of the country, I mean, I guess then you're not lucky, you're actually unlucky, and there is a ground invasion of the country, and Air Force wants to provide air support for those infantry soldiers, then yes, there is a possibility that they are actually can shoot down a fighter jet. And by the way, I don't think that anyone is going to use F-35s in order to provide air support for ground forces. So even the fighter jets are, in a very certain generation, generation 4. But let's watch the rest of the video and see what he says next.
Or a large drone. But that's an integrated system, and it's integrated not just because it has multiple layers, it's because the radar systems and the systems themselves are communicating. So if it failed to make contact or failed to destroy the object on one layer, it passes that information off to the next layer that engages, that passes off to the next layer that engages, and so on down to the point where you're destroyed at some point or it blows up. Which, by the way, what I said about the Tomahawks, the 12 Tomahawks Trump fired into Nigeria. But if that says the same thing about most of them, then the U.S. has even bigger problems. So that's on one level, plus the radar system that went with it. Iran at its time, at first Russia was asked, well, pressured not to sell the S-400s that Iran wanted to Iran.
Okay, I think that he's making a mistake. Maybe something has slipped his mind. But Iran didn't purchase S-400s. Iran purchased S-300 in the early 2000s that Russia didn't deliver.
So Iran, I think, actually had paid for them, and Russia failed to deliver back in the 2000s, because of sanctions. After that, Russia was ready to deliver. Iran said, "We're going to build a rolling system. We don't need the S-400." Well, they did.
Okay, quick point here. Iran didn't start building its own weapon system, Bava 373, after Russia saying, we're going to deliver it to you. No. Iran actually started building Bava 373 way before that, right? Not, after, during the time that actually Russia stated that it's not going to deliver S-300s to Iran. Iran started working on that out of basically not having any other option. You can't leave the airspace of the country unprotected, so Iran was forced to build those air defense systems. And Iran, he said, Iran said, we don't want your air defense systems. We're going to build our own. No, that's not what happened. And actually, the first S-300 that was delivered to Iran, delivered at late 2016. The first subsystems of Bava 373 were unveiled early 2016. So, quite a while before Russia makes the first delivery, and considering the fact that they made that delivery, obviously you can understand that Iran didn't tell them we don't want your systems. They clearly received them, and in fact, Iran actually basically sued Russia in the court of law in ICJ actually, so that Russia would deliver those systems. So let me see if I can find so this is a article in BBC. Obviously BBC is not credible. I know that it's filled with propaganda, but this article actually has corroborated by the Iranian officials as well. As you can see, Russia lifts ban on S-300 missile system delivery to Iran. That's because they refused to do so. And again, you have another article. This one is from TASS. Iran withdraws its lawsuit with regards to S-300 against Russia. Kremlin says Tehran lodged a $4 billion lawsuit at an international court. He's referring to the International Court of Justice, ICJ, against Russia's arm export agency after Dmitry Medvedev in 2010 banned the supply of S-300 systems to Iran. This is a Russian news agency. This is not me. This is not the Iranian basically media. This is not propaganda. This is not BBC. So very important to understand that, actually we basically faced some trouble and difficulties purchasing S-300s from Russia. Let's see what he says next.
After that, Russia was ready to deliver. Iran said, we're going to build our own system. We don't need the S-400. Well, they did build their own system, but it was much weaker and worse off and heavily damaged in the 12-day war.
Okay, so Iranian generals, the Iranian engineers were very forthcoming, very straightforward with what they said with regards to Bavar 373. When we built Bavar 373, because it was, one of our first experiences. Well, obviously, nothing that you make at the first attempt is going to be perfect, but Iran, through different generations, actually succeeded in improving Bavar 373 to the extent that it's now its range, the range in which it can actually intercept missiles, is actually bigger than the range of S-300. It has a very good radar. The system is quite remarkable for a country that has been under sanctions. But from the very first day, everyone in Iran said that this system, despite being better than S-300, it's not as good as S-400. Everyone was very honest with that. No one made the claim that Bavar 373 is better than S-400. So yes, it wasn't as good as S-400, but here's a problem in what he says. He says that they were heavily damaged and they were much worse off than Russian systems, air defense systems. And to me, it seems that he doesn't understand what happened during the 12-day war. Look, during the 12-day war, what happened during the first 1 or 2 days, was that these sort of like station wagons that have their roof modified in order to be convertible. They would go to near different sites that Israel had basically collected information on, and they knew through satellite imagery that the Iranian air defense systems are located in, and they launched these very small drones. Let me say, I will try to see if I can find the picture on them for you guys. But these very small drones, so the roof would basically slide. These mini trucks, these station wagons, the roof would slide over, and then you had these micro aerial vehicles, very small drones. There's a reason that I use micro aerial vehicle instead of drone, and that's in order to give you a sense of how small they are. They're not big ones. So there are a couple of things with regards to these micro aerial vehicles. They fly at a very low altitude, which makes them very, very hard to detect for radar systems. And because they are small, you can launch many of them at the same time and carry out at what we call a swarm attack on the enemy air defense systems. Now, if you have seen any, air defense systems, let's see, let me see if I can Google a picture of an air defense system, S-300, and this is not what S-300 looks like, but because it has other parts. You have the radar, you have the control section, but most people, when they think of an air defense system, they think of this launcher, right? And obviously you can see that it has some canisters. What will happen when you run out of missile to intercept the flying objects that are coming out of you? So the truth is that these weapon systems, these SAM systems that work on the basis of kinetic energy in order to intercept, the projectile that is coming at a country's airspace, they are vulnerable to something that is called passing the point of saturation. So if you launch more flying vehicles at these weapon systems, then they will launch their missiles in the canister and everything, and so they are left with nothing to defend themselves. That's why the Iranian air defense systems were targeted, not because they are inherently inferior to the Russian air defense systems, but due to the fact that all of these weapon systems, all of these specific weapon systems are vulnerable to that kind of attack. Now there is something called, energy-based air defense systems. These are the air defense systems that shoot laser in order to intercept drones, like the Israeli Iron Beam. So they do not run out of bullets, in a way. If you think of missiles, the interceptors, as bullets, they do not run out of bullets. And that's why they can address the problem with the swarm attacks on different countries. Again, it seems to me that he doesn't completely understand what he's talking about with regards to 12-day war. Let's see what he says next.
So Iran came back, Russia came back, built this integrated system over the last 6 months, trained up Su-35 pilots, delivered fighters, Su-35s, which outranged, by the way, the F-35s.
Okay, very important thing to also address here. He said that Russia came back again. He reiterated that Russia has built Iran its integrated air defense systems. No, that's, again, my sources tell me otherwise. And that was something that we actually found out how important it is to have after the very, very sad experience that we had with regards to shooting down one of our own airliners after attacking US Ain al-Assad base in Iraq, when we were waiting for an attack, a possible attack by United States on Iran. So we were preparing to defend our own territories when this sad experience happened, and the system that actually shot down the Iranian airliner was a Russian system. I think it was Toran-1, right? So at that point we understood how important it is to have an integrated air defense systems network, and we started working on that. I don't know if he's referring to integration of Russian air defense systems to the Iranian air defense systems, because Iran has quite a few Russian air defense systems. So whether those are also integrated to the Iranian air defense systems, I heard that they were, but now that he is saying this in order to give him the benefit of the doubt, maybe he's referring to that, the integration of Russian air defense systems to the Iranian, to the integrated network of the Iranian air defense system. Maybe he has heard about that, but again, to my knowledge, this isn't actually 100% true. He mentioned the delivery of Su-35. Well, yes and no. So, Su-35 has become a running meme inside Iran. And let me show you as to why that is the case. Let me see this. Let me if I can find a tweet that I have prepared for you guys. Yes, this is the one. It is out of this account called the Sprinter Press. Yes, I know, not the most trustable source, yes. But it says Russian Su-35s purchased by Iran have begun to arrive at their destination. And if you look at the date here, I don't know how visible this is. Let me zoom. Yes, I hope that this is visible. The account posted this on 18th of April 2023. Quite a while has passed by. After the initial reports on Iran receiving Su-35, but still, to this point, we haven't seen anything. So take that, basically interpret that how you will. But yeah, just yes and no. So we have seen the leaked documents from some of these companies that actually produce certain parts for Su-35, and the reach and the apologies, the contract between Iran and Russia won't be fulfilled until 2028. Uh, will we see some delivery of these fighter jets in different batches to Iran? Probably, but being delivered to Iran, I don't know how he's so sure, because there is actually this news agency that is semi-official. Everyone knows that this news, this is not even a news outlet, it's like a YouTube show, but everyone knows that it has links with the IRGC aerospace force, or the Iranian military in general, the Iranian armed forces in general. And they said that we supposedly are to receive Su-35s, in near future. So I don't know how he knows it so specifically that they have been delivered to Iran. Who knows? I'm not claiming anything, he does. But he says something that is very important to address. And that's why I have prepared this graph for you guys. Yeah, okay, so he said that Su-35s outrange F-35s, and that is actually true. Yes, they outrange F-35s. But here's not the problem. The problem is that F-35s have a much smaller radar cross section. That's actually the image, what you see in the radar, right? It's actually 0.001 to 0.005 square meter. That's the radar cross section of F-35s. But the radar cross section of Su-35 is actually 1 to 3 square meter. So it's what you see in your radar when it comes to Su-35, you actually see it in your radar much sooner than you see the F-35, right? So they're much more visible to the radar systems. But then, what kind of problem does it Iran will receive in order to intercept F-35s? Well, you have this thing called, this strategy, it's called BVR. As you can see, it says detected late BVR disadvantage. So it detects the F-35 late. And what is the BVR disadvantage? It's beyond visual range. So it's the range that you see with your naked eye. And, not with your naked eye, actually. Beyond visual range means beyond the range that you can see, right? So when you want to basically intercept another fighter jet using your fighter jet, the sooner that they appear in your radar, if you have long range weapons, you can actually shoot at them sooner than they are going to shoot at you, right? But I guess what I'm trying to say is that Su-35 has to wait for much longer for F-35 to appear in its radar in order to intercept that. So this is not going to be a miracle weapon. It's going to change things probably to a great extent, but just understand that this dynamic exists between these two fighter jets. So let's go and see what other claims Mr. I think it's Stanislav Krapivnik, if I'm not mispronouncing his name. Let's see what he says next.
Even though it's a Generation 4++ fighter versus the Generation 5 fighter that the S-35 represents. That's on one side. On the other side, the Chinese are bringing in their integrated radar systems, which include very tight beamed, low wavelength sections that can pick up, integrated with the satellite systems, which can pick up anything within, I think, was it 500-600 kilometers outside of Iran.
Okay, so I think that he is referring to YLC-8B radar. Uh, you can see it's. Let me see if I can show you its pictures. Yes, these are the pictures of YLC-8B. Sorry for my really bad internet connection. Uh, you have them actually being deployed in Iran. That's what he says. Uh, this radar, and by the way, this is not the best thing to do in order to trust the AI overview of Google, but in this aspect, with regards to this particular case, since I have already double checked and I know that it is the case, I'm going to just read it from here other than opening up a new tab. So it's a Chinese UHF band. That's a low frequency radar, a 3D long range anti-stealth aircraft, anti-stealth surveillance radar designed for early warning. This term early warning is actually very important. I'm going to come back to that later on. Featuring high mobility with a less than 30-minute setup. And it also says that it has a range of 500 kilometer for aircrafts, and less than 700 kilometer for missiles. Okay, so what does it mean for Iran, and what should we do with the information here? Okay, so this is a low frequency radar, which means that it's very good at detecting stealth aircrafts. That's sort of the intrinsic feature of low frequency radars. They're very good at detecting stealth, but then they're very, very bad when it comes to guiding the interceptor towards the stealth aircraft. That's one of their problems. You can't use them in order to intercept a fighter jet. You can only use them in order to detect them. So I'm talking about detection versus interception. Very important distinction. So if and when Iran shoots down a stealth aircraft of the United States like F-35 or F-22, immediately the question that you should ask yourself is, what kind of radar did Iran use in order to shoot down these fighter jets? Because again, yes, sure, the Chinese radar helped them detect the threat. They didn't help them intercept the threat. So that's the first thing, to make that distinction. Very important distinction. But is it something that Iran can't actually build itself? Well, no. As you can see on the screen, this is the picture of this radar called Matla el-Fajr 3. It operates on VHF band, so again, a low frequency radar. It has a range of 500 kilometer, similar to YLC-8B. It's active electronically scanned radar, same as the YLC-8B, and it has a less than 30-minute setup time. It requires a less than 30. Did I say seconds? This is what I'm talking about, guys, when I say that. Unfortunately, sometimes I say things that I don't mean. Less than 30 minutes. That's what I meant. It requires a less than 30-minute setup time, right? So this is very comparable to YLC-8B radar. Is it as good? It's very difficult for us to say based on the brochure and the catalog of different weapon systems, radar systems, as to how effective they are, because on the battlefield things are very different. You can't always rely on the information that you read on in the catalog. But I just wanted to mention that Iran has systems that are comparable to this radar, and it also has this one, the radar system that this gentleman, this military general, is actually it was blocking the picture of the radar. This is the radar that I was talking about. This is called Mi'raj 4. You can see it on the screen. Not only this one can detect stealth aircraft to a good degree, because it's an S-band radar, right? Which basically means that it's sort of good enough to detect the stealth aircrafts, but at the same time, because it functions on a higher frequency than, for example, Matla al-Fajr 3 or YLC-8B, it can actually be used in order to guide the interceptor towards the stealth aircraft. Again, I like to reiterate that you can't really say which radar system is better. You can't compare them unless you see the results in the battlefield, and even then it's very important for you to have a very comprehensive analysis and a non-biased outlook as to which system is better. But you can't compare them. What I'm trying to say is that you can't compare radar systems based on the brochure and the catalog information. But my job here is to come here and talk about how certain news has been published in such way that seems way more bloated than what it is. So let's see if Mr. I think that we have watched what he had to say enough. Let's go and talk about other things, other news that have been published on social media. And by the way, since I brought up the fact that Bavar 373 is a system that Iran built itself, and you guys might want to read an article on this, there's this vlog by this Iranian military analyst called Iran Geomil. It has a very good article on Bavar 373, and it compares it with S300. It's a very good article. You can see the basically side-by-side comparisons between the systems. It gives you an extensive overview and information about what is happening. It gives you, for example, this was the spec sheet for the Mi'raj 4 radar. Different coverage of it in the news, and it also gives you the details about the interceptors and radars that Bavar 373 uses. So that I think is very important. And for those of you who want to follow him on social media, his name is Amir. You can find him at Amir IGM. He posts about these different things, which I think that if you want to know the opinion of an Iranian military analyst, this guy to a certain extent has good posts, good tweets to talk about them. Now I want to mention something, because if you paid attention to how Mr. Slavitsny, the gentleman on Mr. Glenn Diesen show, was talking about, he was speaking in such way that you might have thought, well, Russia and China are basically going to handle this war, and you are left with this question as to what Iran will do, because you hear this non-stop: Russia, China, Iran, Russia, China, Iran, Russia, China, Iran. And I want to share this last piece of information with you guys. I actually have prepared much more than this for you guys, but I didn't think that it is going to basically took me this long to explain all of these things. So we're probably not going to mention some of the stuff that I have prepared for you guys. But yeah, let's quickly go and explain what I was talking about when it comes to the role of the Russian and Chinese, the kind of relationship that Russia and China have with Iran. Okay, so I've prepared this infographic: Russian weapon systems used by Algeria on left and by Iran on the right. As you can see, Algeria has MiG-25, MiG-29, Su-24, Su-35, Su-30, Su-57, Yak-107, Mil-Me-24, Mil-Me-26, Mil-Me-28, S-200, S-300, S-400, Buk M2, Tor M2, Panzer, Iskander, which is short-range ballistic missile. They have these Nenuchka, I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name correctly or not, but Nenuchka missile corvettes. Saleh Rais, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly because it's actually an Arabic name, which is English, written in English basically. And again, Nenuchka missile corvette, Soviet MRK-22, ex-Soviet MRK-22, operating under the name of Reis Ali. Again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly or not, but yeah, they are operating all of that. And on this side, you have Iran using S-300, Tor M2. So Algeria has Tor M2. Iran has Tor M1. Tor M2 has 16 missiles that it can launch. Tor M1 can only launch 8 missiles. So this is basically twice the capacity that I'm referring to Tor M2. It has twice the capacity of Tor M1 with regards to launching missiles. Iran has Sukhoi Su-24. It has MiG-29, apologies, that it has very recently received a new modernized version of. Sukhoi Su-35, which is, again, this is a rumor to be delivered to Iran, but it's a highly credible rumor, so I thought that maybe I should mention it on this list as well. But yes, we have yet to see videos of Sukhoi Su-35, images of them in Iranian air bases, or any official statement that would corroborate this purchase and this delivery, actually. Yak-130, this Yak-130 is a training jet. It's a subsonic training jet. So on its own, it doesn't really actually have any specific operational value when it comes to modern warfare, but it is something that is useful for you to train your fighter pilots if you want to use Russian fighter jets. And you can see on the left, Sukhoi, they have like 4 different fighter jets that they use, the Algerians. So, they are using Y-30, Yak-130. They're putting it to good use in order to basically train their fighter pilots. Iran has Mil-Me-28, again 3 different types of helicopters Algeria uses, and you have Kilo submarine, which is, unfortunately I have placed my own camera on it. Yeah, Kilo class submarine. So this is what Iran has. Let me see, let me change the camera. Okay, let me take it back where it needs to be. Okay, so let me change the screen because I want to talk to you guys. Yeah, look, we do appreciate what Russia and China are doing for us inside Iran, right? We truly do. But I think that the military analysts, the geopolitical analysts who talk about the kind of relationship that Iran has with Russia or China, they actually exaggerate, and they might not mean it, but the way that they speak might give you the false impression. How many of you, I'm asking this question from you guys, my audience, how many of you knew that the Algerian military is stacked with all these Russian weapon systems based on what they have been told by the military analysts whom you guys see talk about Iran and Russia day and night, saying Iran, Russia, Iran, Russia, Iran, Russia. I think that nuance is very important. And so that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to mention that we need to be more nuanced with regards to our analysis. And let me actually show a few other things, and after that, let's wrap this video up. Why is it so important, and why is it that I'm so obsessed with publishing correct news and not talking about the rumors? This is a tweet by Mr. Jackson Hinkle. I have nothing against the guy. I actually respect him quite a lot because he goes to Yemen, he travels to all these countries, he supports the axis of resistance. So, solid guy. I have a lot of respect for this guy. Look at what he has said here. Breaking. Iran has requested that President Putin send them Russian-made Sukhoi Su-35 fighter jets. And he said this on 2024. The contract was signed in 2023. So the fact that he published it in August 2024 is kind of strange, maybe, but let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he's trying to remind people, but this is not breaking, by the way. What I'm trying to say is that it's not breaking, but maybe because of the developments inside the region, he felt the need that he should mention this. Let's look at another tweet of his. Breaking. Russia has sent S-400 air defense systems to Iran in anticipation of an Israeli attack. That tweet was posted on October 2024. So he said that Russian S-400 systems were delivered to Iran, October 2024. We had an attack by Israel in October on Iran after this tweet, there were no Russian S-400s to protect the Iranian airspace. Okay, but let's just say that, maybe the Iranians didn't receive enough time, enough training in order to be prepared to use those air defense systems. What about the 12-day war that broke out in June 2025? What about that? Again, there were no Russian S-400s to protect the Iranian airspace. So, and by the way, again, I'd like to reiterate, I like this guy, but I'm talking about people getting over enthusiastic with regards to publishing information that might not always be accurate or true. So it becomes very important for us to pay attention to the nuances, because let's think about this. Let me change the screen here. Let's think about this. Let's think about how it makes Russia look, not how it makes Iran look. If we bought into that news that was published by Mr. Jackson Hinkle, then we might think that Russian S-400 systems are not good enough because the bare bones analysis that they give you on alternative media tells you that during the 12-day war, Iran was really, really weak, and we couldn't protect our air defense, not our air defense, our airspace, right? Our airspace integrity. So by following that news and actually buying into that news, you might think that S-400 is not a good air defense system. So what I'm trying to say is that because some people like Russia and China way too much, I like these countries too. But when I say way too much, I mean that to an extent that sometimes their emotions are used against them, right? And they are quick to publish certain information that are, again, not true. And they can have bad effects. If you believe that Russian, again, S-400 was delivered to Iran, then that means that S-400 is not good enough to protect the Iranian airspace during the 12-day war, which wasn't the case. So it reflects badly on Russia. I'm not just talking to you guys from an Iranian standpoint. I'm saying that if you like Russia, you shouldn't think that, oh, look at this Iranian scumbag, so ungrateful of the help that Russia has provided them with. He doesn't appreciate what Russia is doing, and he's just basically bashing Russia. No, I'm not doing this in order to bash Russia. I'm actually saying this in order to protect the integrity and the credibility and the reputation of the Russian S-400 system. And if you like Russia, you should do the same thing too. You shouldn't post some of these informations that we don't know the source of. So let me change the screen and mention quite a few things that have remained on my sort of itinerary or schedule, to be more precise. It's not itinerary. Okay, look. This is a post. This is a tweet about this Iranian electronic warfare system that is being dispatched to the place that is going to carry out its operation, its duty, its task. You see, this is on the ground image. You can see other things like the satellite imagery. When you don't see these kind of information or evidence, this kind of information about the delivery of a weapon system, you should treat them as rumors, even though you might think that they're credible ones, the same way as I do. When it comes to Su-35, I say that they are credible rumors. Why is it rumor? No official statement, no underground footage, no satellite imagery, no confirmation by any party involved in the contract. So that's why they call it. That's why I call them rumors. Why do I call them credible? Because of the fact that we have seen leaked documents. Because we have heard from rather respectable sources that such thing has happened. Look, this is this account, this military, this OSINT account that I actually respect. I usually immediately hate the accounts that have the name OSINT either in their name, the word OSINT in their name, or in their tag. But this guy seems to be different, right? So he says there is not a single evidence of the delivery of YLC-8B radar. Prove me wrong, please. And there was this gentleman who was kind enough who said that this is an extremely reliable source from Iran, quoting what I wrote here. And I told him that no, this account is right. There's actually no verifiably concrete evidence that would say otherwise. But what did I say that yes and no? Because at least when it comes to this news, there is this one Iranian guy who doesn't have like a stellar track record. He's very hit or miss. Sometimes we make fun of him, in the circles of the people who are interested in following the news about military development, because he makes some exaggerated claims. But that's what I'm trying to tell you guys. Situation has become so bad with regards to the misinformation online that even when I see there is one single guy, one single source inside Iran who is corroborating the rumor that is being disseminated online, then I say, well, at least this can be taken more seriously with regards to what is happening inside Iran and the kind of help that we are receiving. I know the last segment of the show was more with regards to people say, and again, I hope that you guys don't think that this is me going against these individuals personally or because of a personal vendetta. No, I think that it is very important for us to separate fact from fiction. And that's why it's, again, very important to mention the nuances. Mention how certain things are not correct, how some of them are outright false, or some of them miss very important pieces of information that might change the outcome of how we perceive that development. For example, there are the gentleman on Mr. Glenn Diesen show YouTube channel, he actually talked about Su-35 and how it has a bigger range than F-35, but he didn't mention the fact that it also has a much bigger radar cross section, almost 1,000 times bigger than that of F-35, which makes it not able to perform in a beyond the visual range kind of situation, and how complicated again those things are. So I hope that this had been an informative show for you guys. If you enjoyed this episode of Political Aficionado, I hope that you guys can like, share, subscribe to the channel. Basically share it with your friends on social media. I don't really make videos, too often, but I do it when when there are things important enough to discuss with regards to Iran. If you're interested to know the Iranian perspective on certain developments inside the region, the upcoming war, I think that there is, basically a value to you guys subscribing to my channel. But that's it. That was it for this show. I hope that you have enjoyed this episode, and see you later. Take care.